The wind howled through the ruins of Outpost Theta, carrying the distant echoes of battle. Sergeant Eric Voss adjusted the scope of his rifle, exhaling slowly as he settled into position. The terrain ahead stretched in jagged ridges and scattered debris. A wasteland where countless soldiers had already fallen. Somewhere in that chaos, the Diaevok forces were advancing, their war engines grinding forward like an unstoppable tide. Voss shifted his weight slightly, careful not to disturb the loose gravel beneath him. He had been here for hours, unmoving, wrapped in a cloak of dust and shadow. The Galactic Council had already deemed this world lost. Vorshak 7 was just another name on a long list of territories abandoned to the enemy. The retreat had been swift, nearly a rout, as high-ranking officers scrambled to escape, their arrogance finally crumbling under the weight of Diaevok aggression. The humans had been ordered to withdraw as well, at least those deemed important enough to extract. Voss and his spotter, Corporal Delane, had received no such order. Instead, their unit had been left behind, written off as collateral in a war where humans were considered expendable. Delane lay prone beside him, her eye pressed to a pair of binoculars. She let out a low whistle. "You seen this?" Voss shifted his scope slightly. Movement. The Diaevok vanguard. A column of reptilian warriors moving in disciplined formation, their exoskeletal armor glinting under the twin suns. Unlike the Galactic Council forces, who relied on precision strikes and technological superiority, the Diaevok thrived in brutality. They stormed battlefields like a plague, overwhelming defenses with sheer numbers and relentless bloodlust. But they weren't expecting him. "They are advancing faster than expected," Delane muttered. Council Command was sure they'd spend another day regrouping. Council Command also thought this world could be defended. Voss replied, voice steady. He adjusted the elevation on his scope, gauging the wind speed. The Diaevok commander came into view, towering over his subordinates. His armor was adorned with the bleached skulls of previous kills, a grotesque display of status and dominance. Voss had seen his kind before, warlords who led through fear, who considered humans beneath notice. His finger tightened against the trigger. The shot cracked through the still air, and the commander's head snapped backward. A fine mist sprang into the wind. For a heartbeat, the Diaevok stood frozen, struggling to comprehend what had just happened. Then chaos erupted. Voss chambered another round before the first body even hit the ground. The vanguard faltered, warriors scrambling for cover, roaring orders in their guttural tongue. Voss ignored them. His scope found the officer barking commands, his mandibles flaring wide in anger. Another shot rang out. The officer crumpled, a smoking hole between his eyes. Delane let out a soft laugh. Now they are getting nervous. The Diaevok, despite their brutality, were not accustomed to facing an enemy they couldn't see. They expected frontal engagements, warriors clashing in glorious battle. But this wasn't a battlefield. It was a killing ground. Voss lined up another shot. He was just getting started, the Diaevok were learning. Voss watched through his scope as the surviving warriors abandoned their rigid formations, breaking into smaller, scattered units. They moved cautiously now, using the ruins and terrain for cover. Their earlier arrogance burned away by cold reality. Good. Fear made them predictable. "Looks like they've figured out you're not missing your shots," Delane murmured, tracking their movements through her binoculars. "They are adapting. But they are still too slow." Voss scanned the field, searching for his next target. The Diaevok commander's corpse had been dragged into the shadows, but his death had left a power vacuum. Lower-ranking officers barked orders, trying to regain control. That was a mistake. His crosshairs settled on a lieutenant trying to rally a squad. Voss adjusted his aim, compensating for the wind, and squeezed the trigger. The alien's skull snapped back, his body crumpling before his soldiers even realized what had happened. Panic rippled through the group. They scattered, diving for cover, but there was nowhere safe. Voss didn't need them clustered together. He just needed one to break. A younger Diaevok, likely an inexperienced warrior. bolted from his position, sprinting toward what he thought was safety. Another shot. Another body in the dirt. Delane exhaled. They are not used to this. They are used to slaughtering prey up close. This is something else entirely. The Diaevok weren't just fighting an enemy. They were being hunted. Voss shifted position, crawling back from his sniper's nest with practiced ease. They'd pinpoint his last location soon. He needed to move before they got brave. Delane followed, keeping low, her movements as fluid as his. They had already mapped out escape routes, alternate nests, fallback points. Sniping wasn't just about taking the shot, it was about control. A younger Diaevok, likely an inexperienced warrior, bolted from his position, sprinting toward what he thought was safety. Another shot. Another body in the dirt. Delane exhaled. They are not used to this. They are used to slaughtering prey up close. This is something else entirely. The Diaevok weren't just fighting an enemy. They were being hunted. Voss shifted position, crawling back from his sniper's nest with practiced ease. They'd pinpoint his last location soon. He needed to move before they got brave. Delane followed, keeping low, her movements as fluid as his. They had already mapped out escape routes, alternate nests, fallback points. Sniping wasn't just about taking the shot, it was about control. As they repositioned, a new sound cut through the night, a deep, resonant horn blast echoing across the battlefield. Delane stilled. That's not a retreat signal. No, Voss muttered. That's something worse. Through the broken ruins, figures emerged. Larger. Heavily armored. Their movements deliberate. Elite hunters. The Diaevok warlord had sent his best to eliminate a single sniper. Voss smirked, settling into his new position. They thought this was an escalation. They had no idea what he was capable of.